talking about the 7 things that you must do to be perceived as a strategic product manager. One of the most common questions I get from product managers is, Shobit, how do I get out of this business of being perceived as tactical? And how do I start to become that person who people see should be invited to strategy meetings, who's perceived as strategic, who gets the best projects, who the manager calls on for longer term thinking? I want to be that person. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to break that down for you step by step. Now, there's 7 things that you can be doing. You don't have to do all of them. But if I were you, I would take notes, pay attention so that you can try to maximize as many of these as you can. Let's get going. Number 1, the first thing you must do is to know the language of strategic product management. What's your mission? What's your vision? What's your strategy? This basic thing is where most product managers lack. They don't really understand what mission means, what it should stand for the company, what it should stand for your product. Same thing vision, same thing strategy. I could go on, like this is a super deep topic, and through my program called Product Leader Blueprint, one of the areas I clarify for product managers and help them become really strategic as a product manager. And this is one of the areas we have to work on. Make sure they're not mixing up these terms. So that's the first thing. Just knowing the language of product strategy, vision, mission is just fundamentally important, and understanding those concepts deeply so that you can then go ahead and do the next thing. The next thing, step number 2, is to build a strategic product narrative. See, most product managers, they are debating with their stakeholders on decisions at a very granular level. This is the tactic, this is the feature we should build, we should not build, we should go in one direction, the other direction. That's where they're having the debate. Problem is that they are not up-leveling the discussion. They don't have a strategic product narrative which tells the story of their product, where it is, how it evolves to be there, what problems it solves for customers, what problems it could solve for customers, what business metrics it has achieved, what it could achieve. And because you don't have the narrative, you never get alignment on the top level goals. What you're talking about is this one lower level goals that you're trying to get alignment on. And so you're in this endless debate and you never get out of the tactical work. What great product managers do, they have an inspiring product narrative that they get alignment on once and for all. And then all other discussions, they either just disappear, or if they don't disappear, you have a much simpler case of, cool, based on the narrative, based on what we're trying to achieve, this makes more sense. Anyone disagree? No? Okay, cool, let's move on. And trust me, this is something that has happened over and over again. People are always going to be asking you for features, and they're going to be asking you for features that most serve them. But if you have this strategic product narrative, then you can shortcut those discussions and you can quickly keep moving and spending more time on doing actual work, and then even building better strategy going forward. Now, another thing we focus a lot on in Product Leader Blueprint, so I'll definitely leave a link to the program below, so definitely check that out. Number 3, very important. You need to start connecting the dots, and I'll have 3 points associated with that. Connecting the dots is super important. So the first place you need to be able to connect the dots to be perceived as a strategic product manager is to connect the dots backwards. Look, without context, nothing is meaningful. And if you're not able to tell and understand the history of the product, why decisions were made, why it evolved as such, you're never being able to actually build up a compelling product narrative, because that context is lost and people are just wondering, hey, why haven't we achieved more? Why aren't we shipping faster? Why aren't we achieving outcomes faster? You're missing the history. And the decisions you're making now, they also have their grounding in history. If you don't connect the dots between what you're doing now and what has happened in the past, even if it was some other product manager that was leading the charge, even if it was the CEO leading the charge, you're missing the picture, not able to tell that compelling story. So as a product manager wanting to be perceived as strategic, you have to connect the dots backwards. Next step, you have to connect the dots looking forward. You have to clearly articulate why what you're proposing now helps you achieve the business outcomes that your company wants you to. That's connecting the dots forwards. And then also you need to articulate why it changes your customers' lives going forward. When I work at Google, like this was one of the single most important things that I believe I did, which is almost on one slide, I was able to articulate what we've done in the past, why we've been so successful there, why it makes logical sense to be focused on right now what we're doing, and what we could possibly achieve in the future. The 3 horizons concept is very well known. You need to be able to get that for your product, whether it means 3 horizons in terms of how your customers' lives is going to change, 3 horizons in terms of market opportunities you can go after. All those are fundamental. The 3 horizons in terms of market opportunities you're going to go after, those are fundamental in helping you being perceived as a strategic product manager. Okay, next point. You need to be able to connect the dots looking upward. What does that mean? Well, look, your product doesn't exist in vacuum. There's probably a product suite that is contained in, and that is within the umbrella of the company. So all these things are happening, and if you're not able to articulate why your product is so important, why you're doing is so important, why does it help the company achieve its goals, that's just a missing link. And so because you're not able to connect the dots upwards, you're not known to be strategic because you didn't really connect it to the overall strategy of the company. By the way, you know who wants to contribute to the overall strategy of Intentional Product Manager? Ahsoka. She's been hanging out and she's been asking me to be shown in the video, and now she'll be part of it. You have connected the dots, you have your strategic product narrative. Now, you have to tell the story over and over and over again. Just when you think you've told it enough and you're sick of telling it, you can't tell it one more time. That's really when people are starting to get familiar with things. In influence, one of the things that's super fascinating is people get influenced by something just by repeated exposure. The more times they see it, they become familiar with it, and now they are more likely to believe in it. And there's tons of experiments that have been done on it, but the idea being that even when you're trying to influence your manager, it actually helps to do something as simple as mentioning an idea, very much in passing early on, and then going back and actually talking about it deeply later on. So you want them to get familiar with the idea before they start to give you an opinion on it. Same thing is true with your engineers, your stakeholders, your customers, your CEO, everyone around you. They need to hear the idea over and over again. Initially, it might be foreign, then it becomes more familiar, then they start to get influenced by it, and then they identify themselves with it. That's what you want to achieve. So you need to be able to tell the story over and over again and be identified with the story, which means your brand is connected to your strategy's brand. You become a strategic product manager. So being able to tell the story over and over again in whatever format and as a story, it's important. One of my mentors at Google used to say, repetition does not spoil the prayer. Now, he didn't come up with it. He was very clear on that. But he knew that, look, it was important for us to articulate why we're here. Why do we do these things? Why do these things matter? Put it in a broader context and repeat the same thing every time we had a certain meeting or something else. Now that you have that strategic product narrative, you're repeating it, you got to be the person who's driving those decisions based on the strategy. Everything you do must be connected back, and you must be seen, whether it's broader meetings, or whether it's your team's decisions. You need to be always connecting things back and driving decisions based on that. That's when you get perceived as strategic. That, this person, they just didn't try to come up with a brand new way of solving this problem or coming up with a decision. They connected it to something we all agreed on. And so they must be strategic. Wow, this person is so awesome. And that's where you want to be. You want to be driving those decisions strategically. I remember pitching for a big idea that was previously rejected. Again, this is a story at a startup. And because I was able to tie it in with something way beyond what my product did, it was a much broader initiative, a broader vision that the CEO had. It just made so much more sense. So I was able to drive that decision strategically while other people were very much tactically thinking about it. So made a massive difference. Now the last thing, I know this is point number 8, I said 7, new one came to me, hey, I'm human. So the 8th point, for you to be perceived as someone who's strategic, you have to have a point of view beyond your immediate area. See, we get fixated. We get so fixated on, look, this is the product I'm responsible for. How do I make it more successful? Is we forget that we probably learn things that are relevant to product managers that are managing other products, our peers, our managers, someone beyond that. So somebody who's strategic, they're strategic not just because they know things well, is because they have a broader point of view and they can influence others' thinking by having a point of view beyond their own area. Doesn't mean you're always right, but just like many people that I've heard succeed say that, look, I am willing to be wrong. I can have strong opinions loosely held, which is I can come up with a strong point of view on what you should be doing, but I am okay with being proven wrong. And those are the kind of people who get perceived strategically. Now, I'm going to add one more point number 9. Again, more ideas are coming as I'm recording this. So, for you to be perceived as strategic, you also need to learn how to tell your own story, whether that's within your company or whether it's your story outside the company. See, so many times as I've helped people get into, especially like FANG companies, that's a prime example of this. They come and say, look, Shobit, I'm not working on like this high level strategy. I'm not working on this vision. How do I get to these companies? The fact of the matter is that it's their perception that's wrong, which is they have been doing elements of strategy at least. They just have not been articulating their story well. And they've also not been articulating that, hey, if they were given more of an opportunity to be strategic, what they would do. So Intentional Job Search is the program where we spend a lot of time in helping people tell their story remarkably well so that they can land the dream job. But it's also true within the company. When you have to get promoted, you need to be able to tell your story from a strategic perspective. And so that is an essential piece on you getting promoted, but also you getting recognized and you being associated as a strategic product manager, and you be given the opportunities that will enable you to be more strategic. It's like a cycle. You build a little bit of a perception of being strategic, you get more projects that enable you to showcase that skill set, you do that, and then it just works in a loop. You can think of it as a flywheel. It can just go the other way, and it can also go the other way, that you just execute tactically and then you get more projects which are tactical, and then you keep going down the loop of super tactical product managers. Stay where you are, no need to get promoted. So those were the things you need to do to get perceived as a strategic product manager. Now look, you might be at a point in your career where you've said, I got to be perceived as a strategic product manager. Even if you're already in like a director role where you're meant to have some level of strategy, you can get to that next level. So what I invite you to do is to not waste any more time, book a call with us so that we can really figure out where have you been falling short in these different things, where is your next opportunity, whether it's finding a new role or whether it's starting to be perceived as super strategic and getting to that next level right here. And somebody from my team will help you build a step-by-step plan on exactly how you go there. If we can help you, we'll show you how. If we can't, no worries, you'll know exactly what you need to do to get to that next level. Look forward to seeing you very, very soon.